Noah's flood is just one of many stories of ancient cataclysm. But what if it could be traced to a real event that happened thousands of years ago in a location no one expected?
This is Bulgaria and the Black Sea coast.
I'm using the latest technology to uncover the origins of the greatest flood stories on Earth. Crossing continents in search of ancient cities wiped out. To find out, what does it take to turn a disaster into a legend?
I'm not gonna be able to forget that sound for a long time.
The Black Sea, a place of legend, truly one of the great inland seas of the world, covering an area of over 170,000 square miles. And that's bigger than California. And in some places, over a mile deep.
Some people believe this was the scene of events that inspired the world's most iconic flood stories, including the story of Noah, the epic tale of the end of the world. In this telling of the flood story, as in many others, great rains fell for 40 days and 40 nights. An ark was built to save life on Earth. Everything else drowned in the rising waters. For decades, archaeologists have scoured the Middle East for a catastrophe big enough to inspire the legend. But then in the 1990s, a group of scientists came up with a radical new theory that switched their search to here, in Bulgaria. Look at the Black Sea. Sandwiched between modern-day Russia, Turkey, and Eastern Europe. Over 7,000 years ago, it was just a freshwater lake. But after the end of the last ice age, ice sheets in North America and across the world melted. Sea levels surged over 300 feet. The Mediterranean overflowed. An estimated 14,000 cubic miles of salt water, 5 times Lake Superior, carving out the Bosphorus Straits and creating this huge inland sea. This is the hotly debated Black Sea deluge theory. If the flood really was that rapid, then it's one of history's greatest natural disasters.
Could you imagine witnessing something like that?
Something big enough to wipe away an entire civilization? But there's a problem. If there were people living here back then, no one has ever found a trace of them. Can I find evidence of anyone that witnessed such a deluge, lying drowned under the dark, icy waters of the Black Sea?
Are these my weights?
Local explorer Konstantin Starev has been diving these waters for over 30 years. His life's work? To find any evidence of the civilization a deluge might have wiped out. Our first stop, the Gulf of Varna, a natural harbor.
Huge jellyfish.
Under the expert supervision of local dive master Nick Adzimov, we find what looks like ancient artifacts on the ocean floor.
It looks like perfectly circular. The sand and all the shells wash up, sort of little bits of tile. They're showing up everywhere. Look at this. This is a piece of pottery. Woo! This is awesome. Amazing.
Unbelievable. What is this?
I would say this is either Greek or Roman. Yeah. I find these small fragments even more interesting because these black things, usually we associate this very dark pottery with Neolithic times.
Neolithic times?
Yeah, that looks like more than 5,000 years old.
But even this Neolithic pottery is nowhere near old enough. We're looking for something thousands of years older. But Constantine has a surprise for me. An ancient object, wow, found by one of his team members
Careful.
3 decades ago. Discovered 25 miles further out to sea.
This is one of the most mysterious objects found in the world. It's been to Germany, to Japan, to England to be analyzed, and people give up. It's made of sandstone. It's not pottery. This is good because it survived, but it's bad because it cannot be dated, because there is no organic material in it.
A precise date for this ancient plate may be elusive, but what is significant is where it was found. Where Constantine believes were the banks of the old freshwater lake. But after decades of searching, it's still the only trace of humans his team have found. Now, they have the technology to reinvestigate where they found the plate. It's a mission 30 years in the making. And I'm going with them. But while they make preparations for the expedition, I'm off doing some of my own digging. If there really are the remains of an ancient human settlement hidden in the depths, can I find traces that survive on the present-day shore? I'm heading into the port of Varna itself, where in the 1970s, archaeologists made an extraordinary discovery. Local expert Dr. Christos Smolenov tells me how they found evidence of a lost civilization buried under a construction site.
It was a matter of chance that a bulldozer just produced a mouthful of soil whereby gold twinkled. And they came across those fantastic gold items which look like cosmic gold. The oldest gold treasure on Earth, almost 7,000 years old.
Can I hold it, actually?
Yes, please.
Good. Look at this. Wow. It's heavy both in physical weight, but also in what it means. This is a piece of art.
Yes.
It takes generations and generations to come up with the knowledge to be able to do something like this.
In total, 3,102 items were found, 13 pounds of gold. More gold was discovered there than in the rest of the world combined for this epoch in human history.
I gotta be honest, it sends chills up the back, because the very first piece of work gold in humanity was found right here, right on the banks of the Black Sea.
This didn't happen overnight. The development of the Varna gold is critical evidence of a lost civilization still under the Black Sea. There were settlers crafting precious metals here on this coast almost 7,000 years ago, not long after the time of the flood.
That gold is incredible. The craftsmanship. Whoever made that was not a hunter-gatherer.
And that's not all. Settlements even older than Varna have been found all along this Black Sea shoreline. The oldest dates back almost 1,000 years before the Varna gold was even made. If people were around when the deluge was meant to have happened, and if some survived, then could these people be their descendants? If so, Perhaps they are the people who took the traumatic experience of their ancestors and turned it into a story that spread across continents and through time.
And when you actually pull up the map of those other flood stories in India, Iran, Mesopotamia, in Europe, they seem to all exist almost like they came from this one point. They're radiating like spokes of a wheel from this one location. But what's really incredible is that when you actually look at the full globe and the civilizations that exist across the planet, there's literally flood stories everywhere. In Australia, in China, in North America. Why are these stories in every single civilization?
Are they all based on real events? Different natural disasters that wiped away numerous civilizations? I need to go somewhere really far away. Somewhere that can have no connection with the Black Sea.
And look at this, down here in Peru.
A story from an ancient Quechua text, described by some as the Andean Bible. And like the story of Noah, it's the story of a flood that destroys the world. Only a chosen few survive to start again.
Now, that couldn't have been inspired by the same event that happened all the way over here in the Black Sea.
Because the story predates the arrival of the Spanish in South America. So, was it inspired by a different cataclysmic event? A recent archaeological find suggests something dreadful happened here.
I think I should go to Peru. I've now traveled over 7,000 miles, literally to the other side of the planet, in search of a completely different flood story.
I want to know if this South American tale of epic destruction also had a real disaster as its inspiration. One that took place here, in the wild Pacific coast of Peru.
The story is so powerful, it still resonates today. The ancient Peruvian story goes like this.
The oceans rose because the world wished to end. Human beings were saved from the rising floodwaters by a magical talking llama who guided them to the safety of the mountains. Could this cultural story be inspired by a real event? If so, can I find it?
Incredible. Sunset on the Peruvian coast and a search. The Huarochiri manuscript describes the llama led the people away from the sea to escape the rising sea levels and into the mountains. So I'm looking for a civilization that lived somewhere between the two, the mountains and the sea, maybe closer to the coast. Otherwise, they wouldn't be afraid of the rising sea levels. Check this out.
Here's the map of Peru.
The most famous of Peruvian civilizations is the Inca, right? But they lived up in the mountains. I'm looking for a different civilization, closer to the coast. Here I am. And then just to the south of me is another civilization.
A coastal empire that stretched from Ecuador in the north right down to where Lima is today, the Chimu. The Chimu people dominated this coastline from about 850 AD for the next 600 years. They learned to surf the waves in small fishing canoes that you can still see here today. the Chimu people were the most powerful culture in Peru before the Inca, famous for their metalwork in gold, silver, and copper. But their empire disappeared after about 1450. What happened? I've been told that local archaeologists have made a shocking discovery on this road to the ancient Chimu capital of Chan Chan.
Kind of in this abandoned construction wasteland. I was sent data from the University of Trujillo for what they found here. Let's pull it up. Wow.
What is that?
Human bodies. Just body after body. Look at that all over this small little pit. Look, there's all these animals amongst them too. What are those animals? Llamas, maybe goats?
Why are dead llamas buried with humans?
What happened? What happened at Chan Chan?
I'm heading to the university lab, where researchers have been trying to answer just that question. In this lab in Trujillo, they keep the skeletal remains excavated from the mass grave. Archaeologists Ferran Castillo and Helen Chavarra have carefully cataloged all the victims. And looking at the bones, something's clear right away.
Este niño tiene 10 años.
10.
10
This is a
años.
10-year-old child.
Por el tipo de erupción sabemos.
137 of the 140 human victims are children, between 5 and 14 years old. And that's not the half of it. Helen and Ferran tell me that all the children died and were buried in the same year, possibly even on the same day. In roughly 1450, around the same time that Chimu disappeared from history. But how did the children die?
Corte hecho con un cuchillo. ¡Guau! ¿No? Aquí. ¡Guau!
Oh. The corazon, the heart, sits just beneath the sternum. And she's saying they did a horizontal cut across that bone and then pulled the chest apart vertically like this, right?
Sí.
And then would reach in and pull the beating heart out of the child's body. Terrible. Terrible, see? Why? Why would they do this?
My search for the Peruvian flood story has brought me face to face with the largest child sacrifice in world history. Maybe the lost city of Chan Chan can tell me what happened here in 1450. And if this is in any way connected to the story of a great flood. I'm headed to the lost city of Chan Chan, once the beating heart of the mighty Chimu Empire.
Is that a pyramid? I think that's a pyramid. A pyramid at Chan Chan.
Can I find answers inside the city walls as to why the children had to die? Built over 1,000 years ago, amazingly, much of the city has survived. And I've been told to expect something spectacular.
Look at these walls. They stretch as far as the eye can see. Got my drone up to taking a closer look right now. Looks like a labyrinth of walls.
I'm using photogrammetry data with graphic modeling to rebuild the city and these extraordinary walls. Here they are, restored to their full glory. A truly awe-inspiring sight, rising out of the desert like something out of a fable. At its dazzling peak in the 15th century, the city was a bustling home to 60,000 people, about the size of London at the time, and covering 14 square miles. This is one of the greatest cities of human history. So why did it collapse so suddenly?
I'm here to meet Peruvian archaeologist Arturo Paredes, who's been working here for years. Ironically, his last name means wall. Arturo. Sí. Mucho gusto.
¿Cómo vas? ¿Bien?
Muy bien, muy bien. Es grande.
¿Qué te parece?
This is Chan Chan. Look at all these carvings here. It looks like like digital fish.
The Chimu covered the city with carvings of the ocean.
Wow. Look at these. They're everywhere.
But among all these artworks is one Arturo really thinks I need to see. An entire wall in the Central Palace is devoted to a giant mural over 170 feet long.
Oh. Wow. Look at this. What is this?
Mira, y estos los peces, obviamente.
Fish.
Yes. Primer plano son las aves.
And each one of these is actually a wave moving down towards the coastline. Are these currents?
A ver, el panel mayor, los peces van de sur a norte.
All these fish, they're going in a direction. They're traveling from south to north. They're actually following the course of a current, the Peruvian current.
But a closer look reveals that the mural also depicts a moment of great change. Another current coming back in the other direction. Fish swimming in the opposite way, north to south.
Incredible. Is this right? Did I get this? Did I get this right?
It looks like the Chimu are recording a dramatic shift in the ocean currents. And when that happens, something else dramatic happens too. A violent shift in the climate. Were the Chimu recording a huge natural disaster on those walls? Were they chiseling a premonition of their own destruction? I need to check the data to see if they were right. This is a dry, arid desert, but a sudden switch in the Pacific Ocean current can trigger violent change and devastating rain.
But look at this. Everything flips because the ocean currents are tied to the weather currents. Everything's tied together. I know this kind of thing. I live on the Pacific coast myself, just in North America.
This climate shift is called an El Nino. These days, it happens about once every 5 years. About once in a generation, you get a really big or long-lasting event. That's called a super El Nino. And the impact can be catastrophic.
Wait a minute. Look at this, the data right here, this rainfall data. Every year for the last decade,
Less than half an inch of rain, and then boom, 2017, one big spike. 4 inches of rain in a single year, completely out of the blue. It happened as recently as 2017. Destructive floods in Peru caused by torrential rains, triggered by a severe El Nino. Maybe there's clues in the experiences in that El Nino that'll tell me what might have happened to the Chimu. I'm gonna go try to meet some people. In 2017, the city of Trujillo, just 3 miles from Chan Chan, and also sandwiched between the sea and the mountains, was one of the worst hit. Some people. I almost lost everything. One local family filmed the flood as it tore through their home. I've never seen anything like this before. This much moving material, water just rushing down through the streets. This whole thing would have been a river. Oh, you can actually see the storm in the background.
Huayco.
The more I talk to people in Trujillo, the more I hear this word, Huayco. It doesn't sound like Spanish to me. Huayco is Quechua or is...
Quechua.
It is? Quechua is an ancient language of Peru, predating the Spanish. Wow, that's incredible. This has happened so many times for so long that there's an ancient word. It's something that's embedded in the memory. Huayco.
Huayco. O avalancha. Huayco.
An avalanche.
Sí.
This term Huayco is used to describe a combination of water, mud, stone, debris. Coming not from the ocean in the west, but from the east, in the mountains behind the city. Is it possible that the same type of event happened to the Chimu? If it did, then there must be some way of finding evidence that an El Nino event happened in their time. And the answers may be up in those mountains. I'm heading into the mountains, above the ruined city of Chan Chan, searching for evidence of a great flood that hit the city in about 1450. The mighty Andes stretch from the tip of Chile to Venezuela in the north of the continent.
We're headed up to a glacier, you know, really to find signs of an ancient past. Literally locked in the ice.
I'll be trekking to the Pastori Glacier with members of a Peruvian and American research team.
We're gonna head to over 17,000 feet of elevation. That's higher than any mountain in the continental US. It's higher than any mountain in Europe. 17,500 feet of elevation.
The Pastori Glacier is 3 square miles of ancient ice, one of the world's few remaining tropical glaciers.
There it is. The answers might be just right there.
The Bird Polar Research Team from Ohio have been analyzing these ice layers in Peru for 40 years, creating a climate record that stretches back millennia. In the face of the glacier are visible layers of time,
Wow.
captured in ice.
So you're telling me that you look at those lines, and they're not just lines, but they're like rings on a tree. Each ring, or each stratification, representing a single year.
Yeah.
And the bigger rings represent El Nino years.
Yeah, exactly.
What happened around 1450? What happened around that time?
Big rains, big rains.
Look at this collated data. In the early years of the Chimu, the odd El Nino, and then in the 1400s, spike after spike. Not just a super El Nino, more like a series of super El Ninos. This would have been an apocalyptic experience. What impact would this have had in Chanchan? I'm headed back to the forensic lab to see. I've told Fren and Helen about what I saw at the glacier. And there's a clue from the gravesite that they think I should know about. Footprints. The children and the llamas leaving their mark in wet mud.
The huayco.
What? Huayco?
¿Tú no has visto un huayco?
Yeah, I just heard about the huayco in 2017. The same kind of huayco mud?
Yes.
This mud is evidence that the sacrifice happened during a flood. The type of huayco caused by an El Nino. So the sacrifice could have been a plea to the gods to stop the rain.
Did you ever find the instrument that was used to perform this sacrifice in all these sacrifices?
Sí.
Oh, wow. Is that the blade right there?
Esta es la navaja con el cual hicieron el corte. Ese debió haber sido el último sonido que escucharon los niños antes de morir.
That's the sound of the rattle. They believe that this rattle is meant to represent death. And this is the blade that was used to sacrifice this child. And that's the sound that that child would have heard right before their own death. Of all the stories I've ever done in my life, of all the films that we've made, this is the most bone-chilling. I'm not gonna be able to forget that sound for a long time.
In 1450, El Nino rains may have caused giant mudslides to pour down from the mountains and crash into the city. An event so traumatic that a society sacrificed their own children in an attempt to end it. And a natural disaster big enough to be written into the canons of their belief systems. Could real events, possibly an even bigger disaster in the Black Sea, have inspired one of the most iconic stories in human civilization? The story of Noah? I'm headed back there to find out.
Back in the Black Sea now, trying to find the origins of some of the very, very first flood stories. And just like in Peru, I wonder, could they be tied to real events? I'm trying to find Constantine now, who's somewhere out here, trying to answer just that question.
Local explorer Konstantin Sterev is searching for the relics of a civilization he believes was destroyed 8,000 years ago. 30 years of research has brought him and his team to one place in this vast area.
So you think we're getting close now?
Yeah, we're getting very close.
The spot we're heading to is notorious among local fishing crews.
All the fishermen complain about it because some of them catch some stones in their nets. And they say these are really, really nice looking stones, like man-made stones, with very flat surfaces and right angles.
Like bricks.
Like bricks, like a sort of a masonry.
And the nickname that the fishermen have given this place
is the village.
Village?
The village, yes. That's the nickname of the site.
The village is also near where the plate was found. Remember that plate? And it's a site believed to be on the old lake shoreline. No wonder Constantine is excited.
We've been waiting for this for years, and now it's happening. It's very exciting.
The first eyes on this spot.
The first eyes on this spot, yes.
In 8,000 years.
4 hours, 25 nautical miles into the Black Sea, we arrive at the village site. We are the first to properly explore here, looking for the witnesses of one of the world's most enduring legends. The first job is to drop a series of coring drills to bring up a sample of the seabed.
Okay, as this thing descends, our hopes and dreams descend with it.
The half-ton coring tube begins its maiden voyage to the ocean floor. Can it find any geological evidence at the moment of that catastrophic flood that might have hit? Or any evidence of people who might have witnessed it?
We're looking for anything, maybe a single moment where the sea rose hundreds and hundreds of feet.
It's time to stop drilling and bring the seabed sample to the surface for analysis.
Okay, it stopped. Look at that. Oh, we got deep.
The next job is to get all the samples out of the drill and into the lab to look for signs of the flood.
We're cutting into the core sample now. We're gonna split it in half and open it up. I mean, this is literally a time capsule. So the lower we go, the farther back in time we get.
And what we're looking at here is layers and layers and layers of the ocean floor. So these shells are freshwater shells?
Yes, these are freshwater shells.
So what you're telling me is that this is the layer right here of ancient Black Sea, when it was a lake, beach shore, right?
Beach shore, yeah, that's the beach. So this is when the flood happened.
Amazingly, Constantine thinks we've captured evidence of a catastrophe. But was anybody here to witness it?
That's incredible, right here. Everything changes for everyone who lived in this area. And what an imprint that would have made in their minds, right?
For them, it was the end of the world.
You lose everything.
Yeah.
Except for the memory.
Except the memory.
But there's something even more exciting about this core sample. The pre-flood landscape is only 3 feet below the current surface of the seabed. That means if there is the remains of a civilization down there, it should be possible to spot. We've reached the most important moment in our hunt for the evidence of a civilization wiped out by a great flood. Constantine's unmanned submarine is going down to explore what he believes is the ancient shoreline. Hundreds of feet and thousands of years beneath us. Can we find any signs of a drowned people who might have given us the iconic flood story?
Any second now, we should hit the seafloor.
Yeah.
There it is, there it is.
This is exactly where the ancient shoreline is. So all this is unexplored, so any image you see has never been seen by anybody else, us including.
You never know. This is why I love exploration, because through the darkness, at any moment, you might see something that nobody's seen for thousands of years. I guess it's the explorer that lives in all of us, right?
And if we find proof that on the seabed there was a settlement, that makes a big difference in the history of the humankind.
So I guess in a way you're looking for your own ancestors.
Exactly. It's not only our ancestors, it's the ancestors of the whole modern world. So that makes me doing this for the last 30 years.
Can you imagine what it'd be like to find, you know, even just a pile of stones or some pottery? Could you imagine? Even just a possibility is what keeps us all looking.
Stop!
What is that?
What's that?
There's definitely something
definitely
here.
something here.
I think that it's maybe could be artifact, maybe.
Something that's not.
But you said this could be an artifact?
Artificial, yeah.
Like some kind of artificial thing?
I think that it probably will be artificial.
As clouds of sand clear, outlines appear in the darkness.
What is this? What is this black piece?
Yeah,
right
exactly.
Here? What is this piece right here?
Yeah.
This black piece and this piece. And then you have this whole ridge here of something.
Yes.
So you've got a ridge and then
that's
these...
something that's out of place completely.
This almost looks like a wall.
Yeah.
Look at this. This
This
pile
looks like a wall.
Could these be the remains of humanity's presence at this ancient shoreline 8,000 years ago?
Is that a shell? What is that? An artifact? That's not a shell? What is that?
That's something interesting, yeah.
Like a little medal?
Yeah.
A medallion?
Medallion.
These images are tantalizing, but elusive, drawing us closer to the possibility of a drowned civilization wiped out by the Great Flood. Could this be the first step in a groundbreaking archaeological quest to strip away the millennia of silt, to unlock the origins of a story which spread through the ages and across multiple civilizations? Constantine makes a powerful case that there really was a catastrophic flood here, when a sea rose and consumed everything in its path. And maybe there was someone here to witness it. People that lived here. Can you imagine that? There are events in the story of our species where we are humbled in the face of nature, moments that challenge our very existence. And it is in those moments where we can either choose to give up or learn and start again.